Hey friends, it's Sammy here today with Digivangelism, and I am bringing to you another video, podcast, and full-length blog post, all linked below if you're interested, helping you and other churches like you to reach people online where they are with the love of Jesus this year and beyond. And today we're talking a bit about how to make guests feel welcome before they even arrive. And if you've ever worried that your church maybe was giving off some kind of unwelcoming vibe, then this video is for you. Unfortunately, it happens more often than not these days. Decades and decades ago, churches didn't have the internet to give the impression of their church before people even showed up. These days, most people check out the church they're going to online before they ever go there in person. And so if that sounds like you or sounds like your church, be sure to like and subscribe for future videos helping you be church online. Method number 1. We've talked about this before and we're sure we'll talk about it again. Make your website clear. This is one of the most welcoming things that you can do to help guests feel more at home before they even arrive. One of the best things that you can put on your website is an I'm new here or a start here section, so people know exactly where to go to get the information that they need to feel comfortable showing up at your church. Beyond these guest-focused sections, you want to make sure that people know how to contact your church if they need to contact your church, and that they know how to get to your church if they need to get to your church. And if you have ministries posted on your website, just try to keep them up to date. That's a very welcoming thing. It's not so welcoming when your ministry says 2007 as the last update. This doesn't leave the best impression on your guests and might even be enough that they don't show up at all. Method number 2, create a welcome video. Now yes, this is leveling up a bit from just having the basics on your website, but think of how engaging it would be for a potential guest to see a whole video explaining what your church is all about. Yes, it's going to take more time and effort on your part or someone's part than just making a Facebook post about this stuff. But in the video, you could show your key leaders, you could answer frequently asked questions about your church, you could do a walkthrough that actually shows all parts of your church. You could share about the weekly activities that are important to your community, and even share about your mission, what's meaningful to your people. Keep it short. This does not need to be more than 5 minutes of time. Keep it punchy. This doesn't have to be a whole history lesson on your church. People just want to see the highlights and probably want to be a little entertained in the midst. And this may be asking too much, but if you can, provide subtitles. Not every church is going to have the capacity to put subtitles on their video, but if you can, this just makes it accessible to so many more people, especially those people that are just scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through social media and they're not going to have their sound on and they're probably not going to turn it on even when they get to your video. This gives them some idea of what you're talking about and maybe even encourages them to turn on the sound for the full experience. Method number 3, outline the arrival process. This can be an absolute game changer for your guests. One of the most anxiety-provoking things for new people visiting new places is often the arrival process. Where do I park? What door do I go in? What do I do once I get there? Where should I sit? Where do I put my kids? What do I need to wear? Do I need to have a name tag? And so many more questions from there. Our advice is to ask a couple friends, family members, or community members what they would look for if they were visiting your church for the first time. Particularly ask people that have not been to your church, if you can. This will give you a great perspective at what the particularities are of your particular building or your particular community. What do people need to know before they will show up? Then create a step-by-step video or photo series or text documents, something that gives people a walkthrough of the arrival process and can calm their anxieties and encourage additional guests to try your church out. Method number 4, be reachable. For many people, communication is nearly constant. There are daily emails, social media notifications, text messages, and yes, still sometimes phone calls. For many of your potential guests, digital communication is how they run their lives. Now, this being said, this doesn't mean you need to cater to people's needs for you to be available. Church leaders need to create and maintain healthy boundaries just like any other leader in this day and age. Simply put, they do not need to be available 24/7, but they do need to be reachable. There needs to be a way for people that are interested in visiting your church to reach your staff without writing a letter, making a phone call, or showing up for a visit. And I know for some of you this advice kind of seems obvious, but for others of you, you may need to set up an email address for the first time. The more communication points that you can provide, the smoother the communication process is going to be for people. Now, it may make sense for your church to have just one public email address that all email goes to, and then your church administrator just filters it wherever it needs to go from there. That might be the best way to protect other people's privacy, protect their sanity, and protect their healthy boundaries. But you also have to weigh the pros and cons of how long it's going to take that person to get that information where it needs to be. Whatever setup that you decide to go with, just make sure it works for everyone involved. Make sure your leadership is reachable if people want to reach them, because for some people, they will need to do that before they ever show up in person on a Sunday morning. Method number 5. Welcome guests with no strings attached. Now, some churches think that they're welcoming, and maybe they are. But what they don't realize is that their welcome always comes with a string. You can see it on some of their websites. Some churches are all about getting people through the door, but it's so clear that they only want you there so that you can volunteer or give some money or become a member as soon as physically possible. Unfortunately, if this comes out in your online communications, some guests are just gonna avoid your church like the plague. People just don't want to feel used, and they don't want to feel like you just want them there so that you can get their money or get their membership, or even have their volunteer hours. Maybe they'll do all of those things, but don't make that string attached. Don't make it like, that's why we want you here. The why behind you wanting them there, it should come down to Jesus and sharing that love of Jesus. Value them for who they are and welcome them with no strings attached. Last but not least, number 6. Provide directional signage. Providing some sort of directional signage might be a helpful and welcoming practice for your church. This is especially true if your church campus is particularly difficult to find, if your church is located down a long or windy road, your church address doesn't match where the GPS sends people, parking is confusing, it's unclear what building people should go to, or if it's unclear which door people should go to. Signs could be staked in the ground, or signs could be along the road or on doors, or even some churches hold big signs to just welcome people and show them which way to go, guiding them every step of the way. That's awesome. Just taking that extra thought, that extra step to really take care of your guests and show them which way to go, that's gonna be so appreciated by anyone who has any sort of hesitancy that they might not be in the right location. And believe it or not, that is it. 6 ways that you can make your guests feel more welcome before they even arrive at your church. If that was helpful at all, please be sure to like, subscribe, and even share this video with someone that needs to see it. Today we brought the knowledge to you, and as always, now it's your turn to put it into action. God's peace be with you as you do.